There is a rhythm moving through your life, one that cannot be rushed, forced, or controlled. Welcome to Sacred Fertility Flow. I'm Ashley Holmes, holistic fertility coach and guide, and this is a space where you're invited to return to your body, your intuition, and your divine timing. Together, we explore what it means to become fertile in mind, body, and spirit so that you can move from striving into flow. And Sharna is the founder of the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss and creator of the Pregnancy Loss Recovery Method, a neuroscience-informed, trauma-focused framework that is changing the way the world understands and treats pregnancy loss. With a deep conviction that pregnancy loss is reproductive trauma, not general grief, she has spent years pioneering a field where no roadmap existed. She trains practitioners globally through her pregnancy loss and trauma-informed specialist certification, equipping therapists, coaches, and birth workers with the specialized tools their clients desperately need but rarely receive. Today, this conversation is for the woman who has felt unseen in her grief, who was handed advice instead of support, silence instead of understanding, or pressure instead of permission to feel. We want you to know your experience matters here. So welcome to the show. I'm very excited for this conversation today and for women to feel truly seen and heard by tuning in.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley.
I'm very excited you're joining us from down under. And I also love that you are one who has sort of pioneered that pregnancy loss is not just grief, it's reproductive trauma. And so, if you could explain the difference and the distinction and why that matters so much for healing, I would love to begin there.
Yeah. I know because that's essentially how a lot of women are treated. And, through my experience with pregnancy loss and also through supporting multiple different women through their losses as well, going and seeing and seeking help for your grief it's important, but it also left something completely missing. And for me, it meant that I was walking away from therapy sessions going that didn't quite hit the nail on the head. And a lot of women felt the exact same way. And I was like, there has to be something else here that traditional support, as much as I said, like it's needed, is missing the mark for a lot of women. Um, and as I sort of, uh, as my healing journey unfolded, and that took also years because it wasn't just the initial experience, it was understanding what I was going through at that first time. And then over, years, realizing that my body was actually in a trauma response. So, what I realized then was it wasn't just grief. It was so much more nuanced than grief. And what was what was being unfolded, like made aware to me, was that there was underlying trauma there. So when a lot of women are going and seeking the support for traditional grief, they're getting the support for just the emotion. And what's actually happening is that their body is going through, or it's stuck potentially in a survival response. And moving through the emotions is fine, but when you're not actually acknowledging the body and acknowledging how much is actually stored of their experience in their body, the support on that grief layer, you just sort of seem to spin your wheels there and nothing really actually transforms. You don't sort
Mhm.
of really get to move through your healing. It ends up being a space for, just to understand what that emotion is. but understanding that it goes much deeper than that. Not every woman is going to experience pregnancy loss as trauma because essentially, um, the definition of trauma is like the lack of an empathetic witness. So if in the moment that they were going through their experience, they were met with someone, a medical professional, or someone
Mhm.
who acknowledged the depth of what they were going through and didn't minimize or didn't dismiss, their experience, then maybe the trauma was mitigated for them. But I would say for the most part, what I experienced myself in my healing journey, what I supported in women coming through, from, in their healing journey as well, was that it ran much deeper than that. And for the most part, they were dismissed. Their experience was downplayed by the medical professions. So when you're actually leaving the doctor's surgery, or the hospital even, if they're not acknowledging that your experience felt as big as what it did, then you almost instantly go, well, if the doctors don't think that it was that big of a deal, then why should I think it's that big of a deal?
Mhm.
And so then you're almost like gaslighting yourself, like you're as well, like you're just diminishing your experience. And my experience felt huge. It was I just knew in my bones there was more to it than what it actually was. And over the years, it started to unfold, and I was actually stuck in a survival response where I would completely freeze. I couldn't swallow, I couldn't talk. I would go into this really high anxious state, and then my body would completely shut down. So when we're yes, there's sort of there's two layers to it because we do have to acknowledge that it is that you are grieving. A lot of women don't understand that they're allowed to grieve, especially if there's something like their pregnancy maybe wasn't that far along. But it goes much deeper than that. It is a physiological response that your body is needing support with. It's a neurological response that your body is needing support with. It's not just grief. There's so much more depth to it that isn't acknowledged by the medical system, um, from what I found in my experience. And that's the women that I support, it's just not acknowledged at all. You kind
I
of just
believe
sent
it's not
home.
just, yeah, it's not just down under, it's globally that a lot of people are walking away, whether it's not feeling acknowledged, they're feeling rushed, they're feeling dismissed, they're feeling emotionally abandoned, and walking away wondering what's next and not even knowing if that's valid for them to feel those things
Yeah.
because they wonder if it's, just them or they're just in their heads and that's not the case. So, what do you
Mm.
think would really actually be supportive in that moment and in those first few days where perhaps you were pregnant and you had a miscarriage or you had to deliver early and the baby didn't get to come home with you. I mean, there's so many scenarios where what you felt and believed was going to be your reality didn't turn out to be that. And then that's where there is this fracture of your identity, and you walk away going, wait, I was pregnant, I was a mother, and then you're wondering, who am I now? Where do I go now?
Yeah. And I think you just touched on something quickly there too. Like you feel like you're making it so much of it up. Like you get caught in your head because you're like, no one can really understand like what I'm going through unless you have been through it. And a lot of the times when you go back to the doctors or whatever, you feel like you're making so much of your experience up. Like, I'm over exaggerating this symptom or this, whatever that feeling, that sensation is inside of your body, but you're not over exaggerating it. What's happening is your body is actually responding in the way that it naturally should, given an external or an internal threat. And what what it actually is your body perceives that experience as an internal threat. It's not even something external anymore. It's something internal. It's your biological responses, the way that you navigate the world. Um, it can be even just getting your period, which becomes that trigger, that response to the threat. And when you're mentioning about identity, like it just that shatters you on a foundational level. Like physically, you were preparing for a baby. Neurologically, your brain is actually wiring you to have a baby. And when that doesn't happen the way that you anticipated it to, and you don't ever, your body doesn't ever go, oh, well, maybe this is not going to happen. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as you get that pregnancy test, you automatically think to the future. You automatically start shifting the way that you perceive yourself, the way that, you know, for me, it was like, oh, I get to leave my job and I get to be at home with my baby and, having all of these plans from that first positive pregnancy test. Like, the baby, you don't even have a belly at that point. Like but it's so much already pre-planning. And from that moment, also, your body is chemically changing, your brain is chemically changing. So it's not even just, thinking about who you are. It's like a physiological and neurological change. But then when that doesn't happen, your body kind of gets stuck in this in between place, and it's still thinking that something's there, but it's not. And then you're also going, okay, I don't know where I fit anymore. So you've got this real like turmoil, like turmoil as well. Like your body is going through all of these shifts and changes and chemical changes. And then you're also having almost like an existential crisis, like of like, I don't actually know who I am, where I fit. And when you're thinking of, say, for example, of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that goes back to like a foundational piece of like belonging. We want
Yes.
to belong as humans. Like that's for us to feel safe. We have to have a place to belong. And when you don't know where that is anymore, you're really questioning everything about yourself at that point. And we have to, and what I did and what I realized I had to do was strip everything back, who I thought that I was, allow myself to feel into, okay, this is what's actually happened now. Who am I? Who do I want to become now moving forward? Because we get to choose. We get to um, strip away everything that we potentially believed about ourselves before, the identity that we had is um, even prior to pregnancy loss, like the identity that we had, it's everything is going to look different.
It
And we
really
get,
is. And it's hard to navigate. And often people feel like they should be, you know, ahead of where they are, or that they should be over it, quote unquote, by now. And society can sort of put those external pressures on you as well. And then you're just constantly questioning yourself and having a lot of inner conflict and turmoil within because you feel like you should be somewhere other than where you presently are, and that where you are is not okay, and that can be an uncomfortable place to be. And it's so important to sort of have that support alongside of you to help navigate that, that you're allowed to be where you are and that it can be confusing and there can be all of these emotions present as well.
Mm. I think that's the thing. Like you're allowed to be there. Like you can give yourself permission to be there and also permission to not listen to everyone else because it's not necessary. It's not their journey. Like they don't know you. They don't know, who you are and your values and what you believe. So yes, they might be family members, they might be friends, it might be the medical system telling you all of this stuff that you should be further along or you should be not grieving or whatever. Um, but it's okay to tune them out, to turn the volume down on those voices and turn the volume up on you, on where you want to be, what what you want to like what are your values? Who do you want to be perceived as? Because you do fit into circles. You are a mother. Like there are things that, questions where people like, am I even a mother anymore? Like, can I celebrate Mother's Day? Do I fit into my friendship circles anymore? And sometimes you might not fit in them anymore. And that's okay to let them go. Because if they're not serving you moving forward, or they're, you know, maybe all of your friends are falling pregnant and, having families, and maybe that's super triggering for you at the beginning. It's okay to step away from those circles and give yourself the space to just really, truly figure out who you are.
I think sometimes too, people want to return to or get back to that sense of self before and realizing that that version of you no longer exists and to be able to eventually find some peace and acceptance of that because there is no going back. You will not be who you were before because this changes you and shapes your reality into something else. And it doesn't have to be on any timeline of what this looks like for you, and that
Mm,
you're allowed to give yourself that grace and permission and to not pressure yourself to stay positive and to try again because these really do invalidate people's experiences
mm,
instead of just allowing yourself to be where you are. And oftentimes people come to me on the IVF journey that are, being rushed when whatever procedure that they've been through didn't work. And you're allowed to sit with what you've been through and process what you've been through before moving
mm.
on.
Yeah. And I think when we're rushed by society, by other people's perceptions of where they feel like you should be, um, the medical system, whether you are on that IVF journey or whether you've, maybe had pregnancy loss and then you're heading into an IVF journey or however that looks, like, yes, the doctors and they're there for a reason, but it doesn't mean that you have to go by their timeline. Like I always say, there's power in the pause. There's power in being able to just stop and go, okay, what do I need? Do I
Hmm.
need to, because I've actually had so many conversations with women who are on their fertility journey, whether they've experienced losses along that journey as well, and just continually going. And then they get to a point of like, I can't do this anymore. I wish
Hmm.
someone had have said to me, you can stop.
Yes.
And that's, give yourself that permission to just go, okay, let's drown the noise out. What do I actually need? You can stop. And it's not a forever stop. It's just, or it's a pause, just pushing pause on your journey and going, okay, I just need to figure out what I need right now. And maybe it's not to go into another appointment. Maybe it's not to try again right now, just because everyone else is like, you should just try again.
Mm-hmm.
Just go on a holiday and relax and it will happen. And, or, you're getting old, your body clock's ticking. You should be, um, you shouldn't be waiting. And, none of that is helpful at all.
No, certainly not. And I think unconsciously people feel like they're losing time. If I don't keep doing this, if I don't keep trying, then I'm going to lose my opportunity. Yet they don't understand that by pausing, by listening to their body, by giving their time to process what they've been through, they're actually gaining in so many
Yeah.
ways. They are gaining and will be served better moving forward by taking the time and space that they actually truly do need for themselves.
Yeah. And because when you actually understand that if you have experienced trauma, reproductive trauma through the loss journey, or even the fertility journey, like that is still a very traumatic experience. Like if you're going like over and over and over, when your body is stuck in a survival response, your fertility is affected. Your reproductive organs are affected. So, like you said, when you're giving yourself the space to pause, you're actually doing a favor for you and your healing and your fertility, because what you can actually do is start that healing process. Start looking at potentially what the trauma is that is there. And by doing that, you're actually going to be helping your body and opening back up your reproductive organs, giving them the nourishment that they need to reproduce, because your body is essentially very primal, and if it feels threatened, internal and from an internal perspective or an external perspective, it won't let you, or it doesn't feel safe to bring new life into the world. So it will do what it naturally would have done, as a primal being, and it shuts off the reproductive organs. So taking the time, being able to spend time understanding what it is that you need, moving through the emotions, potentially healing that trauma, is actually helping you. It's benefiting you by taking that time.
I would love for you to dive into how family members and friends can be that support system for somebody because often people find themselves in the role of wanting to help by fixing and taking away people's pain and trying to make it better for them instead of just being able to sit with them and listen to them and hold space for people. It is truly hard for most of us to be able to do that for somebody else.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of it is hard for a lot of people. We're not taught, like a lot of the time, especially the older generations, they're not taught how to do that. So if you're, want your mum or your dad to sit with you, or, even friends, like I feel like society is very illiterate. Sorry,
Yeah.
grief illiterate, because we think, like you said, you think, if someone's grieving, they're in pain, and humans are very adverse to feeling pain. So we're like, okay, we'll fix it. We'll make that better. And so they're not in
Mhm.
pain anymore. Simple equation. But when you're moving through pregnancy loss, not, it's not what the woman, or even the husband is a part of that too, or the partner, however that relationship dynamic is. It's not what they potentially need. So sometimes it could be okay sitting with them in silence and not saying a word. Sometimes it could be just, offering to do things for them around the house, but communicating that with them. You know, I can come over, I can do your laundry, do your dishes, or cook you a meal. What would you like? Taking the questioning out of it. So, what I mean by that is Don't assume that the woman actually knows what it is that she needs,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the time when we're so consumed in grief, we don't actually know. So if you're asking someone what is it that you need, she may not actually know how to respond to that. So maybe give her some options. Can I take your dog for a walk? Can I maybe, if they've got like children already, can I, come and pick them up and take them on a coffee date? Or like my mum did for me, she cooked me meals, she came and did my washing. So simple little things, but also you can say their name. If they've named their baby, use that in conversation. You're not going to re-trigger them every time that you speak about their baby. They're thinking of their baby every single day, and they're probably waiting for someone to incorporate that into conversation or help them maybe set up a little remembrance sort of practice or something. Let them feel like you're actually listening to them. Um, but yeah, sometimes it can be that, they just want to sit and cry. So just sit there with them and allow them to cry. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to stop them. The last thing that they need is someone in their life to give them opinions or, you know, Joe Blow down the road went through this. This is how they dealt with it. This is how you should be dealing with it. Like they
Mm-hmm.
don't need that. They just need someone to see them, to witness them in what they're going through, help them, but give them options. Can I come and do your washing for you? Do you like, obviously the people listening in will know their person really well. So, you know, offering to do some things that would benefit their person. Um, Having just like a movie night or something, just sit with them. Just if they want to veg and be numb, just let them be numb. See them, just meet them in the moment that they're in. And
Yes.
they're not, they don't need to be fixed. They're not broken. They're grieving. And their body needs to move through whatever it is that's coming up for them. So just allow that to happen.
You've given so many beautiful ways to be able to be there and to meet people exactly where they're at because grief can feel very heavy and there can be a lot of brain fog and it's hard to have clarity on what you need in the moment or what would actually be helpful or beneficial to you. And sometimes those choices can seem overwhelming in the moment and sometimes just having someone there and an option of X or Y. What can I do for you? I'm here to support you. And I think it's something that we can all learn because we're all are going to experience grief in our lifetime. And so to be able to actually be there for people is really, really important. And to bring space to this and to talk about this is so valuable because so many women experience this and suffer silently and don't have that support and feel very alone and can sometimes feel like their bodies betrayed them. So, what do you say to someone who does feel disconnected after they have experienced loss, and how can they reconnect, in your opinion?
Um, Sometimes it does take a little bit of work. There is a lot of blame, guilt, shame that we put on our body, and that, our body is the reason why it all happened. And sometimes it does take a little bit of time to process the guilt and the blame and the shame. Um, but what I was able to do was it's just little steps. It's like, what's 1% different that you can do in that moment, in that day. And it's not this huge thing about reconnecting to your body, because your body could still be in a state of threat. So what's one thing that your body actually does perfectly? And,
Hmm.
it could be that your heart's beating and you're like, okay, cool. My body is awesome at keeping my heart beating. And when we can start to shift away from what it actually did that was wrong, because it didn't do anything wrong, we can absolutely get caught up in the betrayal. And that's very, very real and very valid. But you don't want to stay there. And your body's a beautiful, you know, being. So it does a lot of things right all of the time. And if we can shift our focus on what it actually is that it's doing right, then eventually we can probably come back around to, okay, this was my experience. And maybe by that time, our mindset has shifted on my whole body as an entire being betrayed me. But there is a very like when we go through pregnancy loss, the disconnection between your womb space is real. We can absolutely think and that it as has done something wrong potentially. A lot of women, it's where their baby died. So there is a really heavy connection then to their womb space. And I feel like, I did some meditations around that when I was navigating my healing. And it was, how did I actually perceive my womb space? Was it this
Hmm.
beautiful, pink, thriving, you know, whether it's a flower or, however you want to visualize your womb space? Was it beautiful and thriving and healthy and nourished? Or was it dark and like a cave? And was it sad? And what colors were associated? And there was a lot of darkness for me when I initially went through trying to reconnect back. And I think when we can start to, and it's not just self love on a fluffy self love level, like you
Yes.
have to go deep. It's not just, um, you know, say affirmations about yourself and you'll be okay. Like, I am beautiful in the mirror like every single day. But it's understanding that your body is always doing something right. So maybe it, like I said, just that 1% every day. What is your body doing right for you right now? And then potentially moving through like a visualization of how you actually perceive that connection to your womb space, and shifting then what that means. So, okay, my connection isn't that great. What's there? It's the seat of my loss. Like, there's so much blame, shame, guilt there. Okay, once you've been able to identify like what's actually coming up, then being able to move through those potential beliefs or the emotions, and working towards creating it back to this beautiful, you know, nourished space. Because it's all in our perception and our connection to that. So how can we shift it? I hope that answered your question.
Yes, that was a beautiful explanation. And to give yourself and to build that capacity to be with what is there, because initially it may not be
Mm,
this. beautiful, flowering, flowing, creative force that you feel within you. It may be heavy and dark, and to learn to be able to sit with and be with and acknowledge what is present within you. Because when we can do that, then we're able to shift that and we're able
Mm.
to come back and nourish ourselves into that place that we want to be. And so that we can create more life if we choose to and want to. But I would also love to speak to how I personally know women in my life who have had a miscarriage and then have completely shut down and not been able to bridge that gap or that road again because what they went through was traumatic and they haven't been able to pursue that path because what it did to them in the moment.
Mm. Sorry, can you ask that? Was that a question?
Well,
Can you
it wasn't
can you ask?
exactly a question of, but I'm sure you've experienced people too, or know people who have not been able to overcome
Mm,
that loss or that miscarriage, and their nervous system hasn't been able to have a place or a space to move through or to navigate that in a way that they're able to move forward. And that is their path and their journey,
mm.
but also, yeah, just bringing space for that conversation here as well for those who are in that place and haven't been able to move past that, and that's okay. And that's where their journey has led them to.
Yeah. And I've had plenty of conversations with women over the years, and eh, in any moment, we are given a choice. You can move through where you are, or you can stay there. And I know a lot of women want to move through, but they can't take the action. And I think sometimes that first step, it's freaking scary. Like to be able to move out of your comfort zone and into something new, it's scary because you know your comfort zone, you know it there, but also what's actually thriving there. And I would almost guarantee that there's nothing really extraordinarily beautiful kind of happening for you in your life there. When we choose to move out of our comfort zone, it's scary and we do have to move emotions. We have to move and start to choose to heal our trauma. And that can be scary. And I know a lot of women don't actually take that step because of potentially the fear of the unknown. Um, but when we do choose to shift, okay, I've been here long enough. And that was my question to myself in my healing journey was like, I can't spend the rest of my life here. Like it's hard. Also, I can't, and you kind of know yourself around your little world there, but I couldn't stay there. So I had to actively take steps to move me out. And it is about shifting the trauma. It's about shifting and changing the emotions. It's about shifting your mindset. There's so much involved in it. But again, it doesn't have to be this huge, big mountain or massive staircase all at once. It can just be what's one step? What's
Yes.
one little thing that you can change today? And also, there's people out there to help you. So don't feel like you have to do this on your own, and nor should you do this on your own because this is big. This is, you know, I reckon pregnancy loss and infertility, it's something that really shifts the trajectory of your life. It makes you connect to yourself in ways that you've never connected to yourself before. And you shouldn't have to do that on your own. There was no rule book in how to navigate miscarriage or pregnancy loss or fertility and the healing journey. But there are people out there who have walked the path, who know how to get from where you are out the other side. And if you need to lean on them, find them, because taking the action, it is scary, but you also need someone in your corner when you do take it, because you're going to want to go back. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to want to retreat back into what feels comfortable, what feels safe. Because, and again, a lot of what you're going to be doing is stepping, it will make your nervous system not feel safe. So it can't just be, okay, a decision one day, I'm just going to do this, if you haven't been able to process your loss prior, because then you're going to be stepping out, into the unknown, and your nervous system again is going to be like, hell no, I don't like it out there. Let's go back. So being able to have some awareness of, okay, this is what I'm already feeling, this is what I can support myself through, and then finding someone potentially on the outside to be in your corner to help you when you do feel like you want to go back.
Absolutely. It's so important to know that you're not alone and that we can process and understand things intellectually, yet we're not actually going to make progress and move forward in any capacity until we have an embodied experience of that moving forward, of that actual step, because we can try to think our way through grief and it's not going to work. We have to actually be able to feel our way through grief.
Yeah. You can't willpower your way through your healing, unfortunately. And this goes back to the first question that you asked me about the grief. Like, this is why you can't just think your way through, feeling the emotions. Or, yes, I have this emotion, and then just leave it there. It is actually about proactively moving through and acknowledging and witnessing and going through the layers. Our body is going to reveal layers all the time through our healing journey. And we are, or we have to be able to go, okay, yes, I'm willing to see this new layer now. Um, that's why I said it took me years to understand what the trauma was that was in my body, because for a lot of the time I was just like, nope, I had no idea what was happening, and I had no idea the connection that it had. I had no idea of the connection it had to my pregnancy loss. So I it took me a while to make that connection. And then when I made the connection that my body was actually communicating with me this whole time, and that's why I almost felt like I was sabotaging my healing the whole time. Because I was trying all of the things, like you said, intellectualizing it. I was trying everything. I was in my thinking brain, and I'm like, this is not working. Why is this not working for me? And it was because my body still felt so unsafe. So then it was this like aha moment. Okay, now I have to process, what's happening in my body, but how do I do that? How do I understand what's happening there? And it was just understanding, that the initial responses that I was feeling, and understanding, okay, that's what anxiety feels like for me. And then
Mm-hmm.
understanding, okay, this is what shutdown felt like. It was like I was completely frozen. And I realized then, I was like, okay, this is what's actually been happening now to me over the last couple of years. But then it takes a little bit of time sometimes to make that connection. But This is why you can't talk yourself out of trauma. It's why you can't willpower yourself through your healing. You can't intellectualize it. It has to be, like you said, an embodied approach to healing.
I would love for you to share what you wish someone would have said to you in your hardest moments that would have actually helped you and maybe shorten the length of time that you spent at any particular stage. Because I think only in hindsight are we able to look back and be like, I wish someone would have just said, what is that for you?
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm not making it up. Like I felt like I was over dramatizing my my feelings, what my body was going through. I was always told as a kid that I over exaggerated everything and I had a really low pain threshold. So I carried that belief with me going, okay, maybe I am over dramatizing it. Maybe this wasn't as big as what I may maybe made it out to be. But if I had had someone tell me that it, you know, I wasn't making it up and what I was feeling was valid, then I probably would have allowed myself. I might not have, but you know, I hope that I would have given myself the space to explore it a little bit more or just not to push it aside so much. I just
Mhm.
I was living with it. I was coping with it all the time, every single day, and not giving it any space to actually come through, not giving my body any space to communicate anything with me. And then my gut was severely affected. I was sick all of the time. I had, my bowel movements were just all wrong. I couldn't eat certain food. Um, and so it just was getting progressively worse. So understanding the nervous system and then understanding, okay, this is what is actually going on inside my body now. Of course, it's got to the point where my body's like screaming at me, you need to stop. You need to look at me. You need to help me. But, in the early stages, I gave myself permission to grieve. I moved through my emotions. I thought I was doing all of the right things, but there was still these big sensations that were coming through, and I still felt like I was making it all up. So I think just to have permission to go, you know what? That they're big, but they're real. You
Mhm.
have you have permission to move through those. You can see them.
So would that be your definition then of what being truly witnessed in your grief means to you?
Yes, everything. Because it's like we've said, grief in pregnancy loss, it's not just grief. It's a systemic um thing that your body is moving through. It's physical, emotional, neurological, it's spiritual even. Being witnessed in that is being able to be fully seen in all of those big feelings, sensations. I didn't have the words for it at the beginning. I didn't know it was trauma. There was no one talking about pregnancy loss as trauma. There wasn't nothing on social media. There was the doctors, not no one, like no one said anything. So, to be able to have words then to go, okay, this is what you've been through. To be fully seen in my grief would be to be fully seen in the entirety of it. The emotions, the physical sensations, um, yeah, the questioning of everything. of my identity, my entire being as a woman. Like my body has one job. It couldn't do that right. So who am I? Like, you know, so I questioned my essence as a woman, like to be able to be seen in all of that.
I think you've just allowed so many women to feel seen by hearing you say that. So thank you. And I would love to just ask you before we close, do you think it affected your spirituality and your connection to yourself, your connection to the world and your faith, both in yourself and in the world?
I definitely questioned my faith. Definitely questioned, I've always been a good person. Like, why the hell did this happen to me? I felt punished. I felt
Mm,
like I'd done something wrong and I couldn't figure out what that was. So there was definitely a spiritual questioning in that sense of like, you know, why was this done to me? Because I'm such a good person.
mhm,
And I was like, maybe I did something in my past life that, I'm being punished for. I'm like, there had to be a reason. And I think this is, as a human being, we try to rationalize the
mhm.
the experience. Like, but for me, then I've never been so connected to myself afterwards. I I listen to myself more. I mean, I still do have a religion. My faith is, back to where it was. I realized that I wasn't being punished. And then I was able to connect with myself on a completely different level that I've never been able to do before. Understood myself, and then I understood my higher calling. I was always looking for something when I was in my, 9 to 5, like my traditional job. There was always something more that I knew I had to give to this world. And I never knew what that was until the miscarriage. And then I was like, well, this is it. Like, as hard and as heavy as what I had to go through, I chose to move through that. And then I chose on the other side of that, that if I felt so unseen and so alone, I didn't want any other woman to feel this way. So it broke me to pieces. It made me question everything. But I also gained from it so much more than what I would have if it didn't happen to me.
Thank you for bringing voice and light to that. And I truly do believe that it can be a portal for transformation. Our suffering or our loss or our grief, and we do get to choose, and that often is not instantaneous. It is a journey and everyone's is unique, but I would love to thank you for sharing with us so openly and so honestly today, and please let everybody know about your podcast and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so like I said, everything I've created out of what I needed. So, I needed a space that I could talk my experience out. So when I created the podcast, it was like, this is the space to talk. That was my way of healing. Um, so I created the podcast. It's called What I Wish I Knew Beyond Pregnancy Loss. So it's conversations obviously about my loss journey. Other bereaved mothers have come on, and like yourself, um, women who have gone through loss but then have also been able to turn that into something where they're helping others as well. So there's also um I also speak to different professionals on in that space so that they can bring different modalities or different perspectives, because we often can get so stuck in, what we think we know. And there's so much more available than what we think we know. So bringing the professionals, bringing other women in, um, but then also other lost mums because it validates, you know, our experiences as well. Like, so we feel less alone. Um, and then if you want to connect with me, you can find me on social media. So my handle is reproductive loss leadership. It's where I speak about what I see is missing in traditional reproductive loss and trauma care. I talk about the certification there and different sort of ways. Like, so if you're navigating your healing journey, it can also help you because it can validate maybe why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, because you're not going to get that awareness from your GP or from the specialist. So you could be questioning like why you feel stuck in a certain space, or maybe why certain things are coming up for you. So this is a space that I explore that a little bit more because I see what is missing in the traditional support care models. So it's a place where it's an extension of my brain. So I get to share all of my what I see, my perspectives, and different things that I'm obviously hosting. So obviously, if you're navigating your healing, you can come there and just consume content. Or if you have navigated your healing and you want to be able to maybe support other women as well, then that's a space as well where you will find information. Um, and I also have a website, so it's just www.sharnasouthan.com. So it kind of just has a bit of everything on there. But if you want to reach out to me, the Instagram will probably be the best place.
Wonderful. And all of the links will be in the show notes for you to get a hold of Sharna and to contact her. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. This truly was such a valuable and heartwarming and so needed conversation. And I just want to say to all of the listeners that the light in me honors the light in all of you. Namaste, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next show.